If you're a health or a life coach and you find the whole area of sales icky and a bit cringy, then stay tuned. I'm going to share a bunch of tips, different things that you can try and ideas that are going to help you sell your coaching offers with more confidence. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show we're talking all about how can we sell our coaching packages, our services, our offers with more confidence. And I know that sales as a whole area of business is one that can bring up a lot of stuff. You know, we can feel icky, it can feel really cringy, it can just feel really uncomfortable to sell our services. And I think one of the reasons for this is because as coaches, a lot of the time we feel that what we're selling is actually ourselves, and that brings a whole new dimension to it. And in all honesty, that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy working with coaches specifically, because what it is that we sell is so deeply tied into who we are and what we do. And I think that brings with it a set of, quite unique challenges really. So I'm going to try and share a bunch of things that you can do, different strategies, different tools, different techniques that you can use to help you feel way more confident when it comes to sales. So the first tip that I have for you guys is just to reframe the whole concept of sales. I think when we often think of sales, we think about, the sleazy car salesman. We think of being pressured into something that we don't want. It brings up a lot of those negative connotations that we have around sales. But in truth, most of us are not going to do sales like that. We're not going to pressure our clients. So I think just reframing what sales means, and really sales is about, when you're selling something, you are actually helping someone get something that they want. It's very unlikely that you're going to be someone who is doing something that is going to upset someone. So I think we need to just start off with a bit of a reframe. Sometimes people talk about seeing sales as serving, and I think that's a really nice reframe, is to think about how you can serve people and help people, because ultimately what it is that you're selling is something that can profoundly, massively change someone's life. This is what we're here to be coaches for. We can create a massive amount of transformation. So the first thing is just to really remind yourself that actually selling is serving, that as cheesy as that sounds, selling is serving. And actually when we show up in that way and we think about selling and from that place, that can really shift our energy, which I'm going to get onto in a sec as well. But that can really shift how we end up showing up around and how we feel around sales. The next thing that you can do is really focus on the value of what it is that you are selling. So often what we do, especially with one-to-one coaching packages, is we get really caught up in the, it's this many sessions, this is how much support you get in between sessions, this is what I'm charging per hour, which FYI, if you are doing that, you should not be charging per hour as a coach, but that's a whole other conversation. What we want to be doing is really focusing on the transformation, because that's the actual result. Yes, they are buying from you a certain amount of your time, but they're also buying ultimately the transformation that you are going to help them achieve. So when we really focus on that, we really focus on, through this work, this is the kind of results that they can get. When we're standing in our power and we are not overselling, we're not kind of over promising what it is that we can help people with, that's another way to feel much more confident in what it is that we're selling. So really focusing on the transformation, really embedding into that and talking about that can really help shift how you feel around sales, because you know that you're actually selling this incredible transformation and not just these sessions, because actually they're the vehicle that helps people get to where they want to go, but it's not the ultimate destination. Something that I personally find really, really helpful in lots of different areas of business where I kind of get a little bit up in my head about it and when I start second guessing myself, is to actually write a little manifesto. And this is basically, I've done this around social media, I've done this in different areas, but this helps remind me this is how I approach this area that I sometimes find tricky in business, so that when I'm spinning my wheels, when I'm just kind of, ruminating on the same thing, I can go back to that and remind myself, this is what I've said for myself, that I am going to conduct myself, show up in this way, and it just helps to remind myself that I'm not doing things that I don't want to do, if that makes sense. So I'm going to read out my sales manifesto for you guys now, and you can write your own, think about what feels good to you. But for me, this is just a reminder of, this is how I sell with integrity, and this is how I sell in a way that feels good for me. So whenever I worry and whenever I'm thinking, I don't know if I should send that extra email, or I don't know if I should, email that person who expressed an interest, in working with me a few months ago, or whenever I'm kind of questioning myself, I can go back to this manifesto and be like, actually, actually, this is how I sell, this is all really aligned, this all feels good, I'm not doing anything, when my brain starts to say that I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, I can go back to this manifesto and remind myself that actually, showing up in alignment with my values. So my sales manifesto is, I will always do business in the way I'd like it done with me. I will never pressure or financially shame anyone in how I approach sales. I invite people to take the next step with me because I value my work and the results I know I can help people achieve. I will put systems in place such as payment plans to support accessibility to my offers. When directly contacting someone about an offer, I will always ask for their consent before making the invitation. And I mean, that's another part of sales as well for me is, we're not pressuring anyone. We're not like standing over them with like a gun to their head saying, you must get your credit card out and work with me now. We're not doing any of that, and I would hope that, I think most people who are aligned with me and aligned with what I talk about in the show would probably be really like put off by that. And I've heard some real horror stories about how other coaches have approached sales before, and in all honesty, like there's just no way that would ever feel good to me, and I'm sure it would feel good to you. But having this manifesto is just a really nice way to come back to the way that you want to show up and the way that you want to do things. So if that helps you, if having something actually written down in the way that it helps my brain is useful for you, then there's an invitation for you, is to write a manifesto. Another thing that can make sales really tricky is when you don't feel good about your pricing. So this is a whole topic when it comes to your services and what it is that you offer as a coach. But I really feel that no matter how you decide to price what it is that you offer, you need to feel in alignment with that, because if you can't show up and confidently sell at the price that you are charging, then it's going to feel really, really difficult. Sales is going to feel really, really heavy, and to the point where you might just not want to show up at all. So I'd much rather you have a slightly lower price and actually feel good about selling at that price than having like a price that feels too far out of your comfort zone. Like, I am a big believer in pricing at the very edge of your comfort zone, because most of us, we probably underprice a little bit just because that's how a lot of, especially women in business are. So I think the edge of your comfort zone is a good place to think about your pricing, but we want it to be a price that you can own. Like I've always said to my clients, you want to be able to get on a discovery call or a connection call with a potential client. I mean, usually they would know the price beforehand because you would have it on your website. But again, that's another conversation to be had. And you should be able to really confidently say how much it is that you charge for what it is that you do for your coaching package. And if you can't, I mean, like sometimes, yes, there's like there might be a little like quiver in your voice or inside, but you should be able to confidently own your price. Like if you are showing up on a sales call and you are like discounting it in your head, or you're coming up with reasons to give this person a discount or things like that, then that's a sign that your pricing probably isn't aligned for you. So definitely something to think about is just make sure that you feel really, really good about your price. Something else that you can do when it comes to feeling more confident around sales is to practice your pitch. So if you know that you are going to be having discovery calls, sales calls, connection calls, however you want to call them, it might feel good to just practice what it is that you're going to say to people in those calls. Now, again, depending on how you have this set up in your business, often I think when people come into discovery calls or sales calls, they're kind of there because they're very much interested in what it is that you're offering. You're not doing it in kind of like a cold sell way. So I feel like that shifts things a little bit and hopefully does make you feel more confident just from that point. But practicing what it is that you're going to say can be really, really useful. I did a reel, which I will link to below, with a practice script that you can use that can be really, really helpful basically when it comes to knowing what to say and how to say it without coming across as being icky or weird or cringy or any of those things that we sometimes think we might come across as when it comes to having those sales conversations. Something else that you can do is actually have a bit of a downsell offer that you can bring out if someone just comes back to you with a flat no. Because often in sales conversations, there's going to be like one of three results of you saying, this is how you can work with me, would you like to find out more, or having those conversations. It's going to be, yes, sign me up, I'm so excited to work with you. It's going to be, I'm not sure right now, can I go away and think about it, or it's going to be a flat no. And to be honest, I think you probably don't get many people who would just say a flat no, but if they do, having a downsell option or having something that you can say to them, okay, so can you explain, or can you tell me a little bit about why this isn't right for you right now? And if it's budget, if it's not quite the right fit, having an option there for them so that you can offer them something that might be a better fit is really, really good. And again, this is all about preparing in advance so that you're not caught off guard in a sales call, and you've got some options that you can also present to people if they come up with an objection, which again, we don't want to get into that whole world of like pressuring people through objections, but actually I think sometimes we can ask for consent to do that, or we can ask them more questions and just take it from there, but without being overly pushy. So another thing that you can do, very heavily linked into practicing those pitches, is to ask for consent before it is that you sell. And I think this is such a really simple thing that you can do that can increase your confidence, because you've actually asked the person, like, is it okay to tell you about what it is that I offer? And if they've said yes, then you've got the green light to tell them and to actively sell what it is that you can help them with. So it really is just as simple as saying, I've got something that I think might help you. Is it okay if I tell you a bit more about it? Is that all right? And then if they say yes, brilliant. Okay, so I have this package and these are the kind of outcomes that we will work towards. This is what's involved in it, and so on. So it can be a really lovely way to basically present what it is that you're doing to sell. Just asking them that little question at the start makes them feel more empowered. They've said yes. You're not making it all icky. You can also say, like, at any point, if you just want me to stop, that's absolutely fine. Or if you've got any questions, just let me know. Just have that kind of conversation, that honest conversation with people. I've heard some real horror stories about how people have been ambushed on calls and things like that. So asking for consent just really means that you are giving the power back to them and allowing them to say, like, okay, yeah, I'm absolutely fine with you telling me more about this. And it's the simplest thing, but that should hopefully make you feel better about actually selling to people and more confident to then go on and sell your services and what it is that you offer in sales conversations, because you've asked that person beforehand. When it comes to sales, it can be really easy to find that your energy is just in kind of like a weird place. You might start to feel a bit kind of desperate, a bit anxious, a bit panicky about it all. And when that comes through, that energy, when you are showing up to sell, that can feel really off-putting. Like, people can sense that desperation or that like attachment to something, and that is often what makes sales feel uncomfortable for you and for them. So really looking at your energy and doing things, anything that you can do to avoid getting in that place where it feels like clingy. I think that's probably the best word I can describe it as, to get away from that feeling of things feeling so clingy and so desperate. Whatever it is that you need to do that. And sometimes we can't shift our personal financial situations. They might look how they look at that particular time, but what you can do is you can perhaps do something where you clear your energy, where you just intentionally kind of drop into a space that feels really, really good. But obviously, if you can't do anything practical to get yourself in a position where you can have sales conversations and do sales and be selling what it is that you offer without that feeling, whatever it is that you need to do that, then that's obviously a really good option too. But just be so mindful of your energy. And I think if you can do things to really support that when you show up and do sales, whether that's actual sales conversations or selling in your content or selling on social media or selling in emails, when you're writing emails, like whatever it is, just try and get yourself into the right energetic space where you feel empowered, you feel really, really good, you feel really excited about what it is that you offer. That's the perfect energy to be selling from. And if you have any problems getting into that energetic space, another really lovely thing that you can do is to look back at any testimonials or general kind words that people have said about your work. Because I think for me, where sales gets sticky is when we don't believe in the results that we get for people, where we doubt ourselves, where we feel like, I don't know if I can help this person get that, or where you are feeling doubtful in the value that you offer. And this is why I think sales and confidence and self-doubt are really linked. A great thing that you can do is just to look at the testimonials and look at all the nice things that people who have worked with you before have said. Now, depending on where you're at in your business, you might not have a lot of this, but if you don't, I would go and get some practice clients. It's totally fine. I've done an episode of the show all about that. I will link to that below, about when it's a good time to work for people for free. But if you have had previous clients, you've had really good feedback, keep that in a file somewhere. And before you are doing something where you are actively selling, whether that's a sales conversation, sales call, discovery call, creating some content, writing an email, look back at that and remind yourself of the value that you offer and what it is that you do. I think with coaching, again, we can get into this headspace where we kind of worry that we're selling something that is a bit snake oily, and we're not. We're selling something that really does have those outcomes, but we need to be the one who can identify those tangible outcomes. And this goes back to what I was saying about the really embedding into, this is the transformation that I help people achieve. And the kind words is kind of like the evidence that you can do that with people. I think there is a bit of a habit of over-promising in the coaching industry. Just drop in and remind yourself, like, actually, it's fine to sell what you have the evidence that you can achieve with someone. Like, it's fine to sell from that place. You know, this is why I certainly don't come on here and say that I'm going to help people become a 6-figure business owner, because I don't have the evidence. I haven't done that. I do work with people whose businesses are actually making more than mine, but you know, when I talk about what it is that I can help people with, I am basing that on the evidence that I've got, which is the feedback that I get from people, you know, the ways that I've helped their businesses, the outcomes, things that they've had. And that means that when I sell my stuff, it feels easy. Like, it does not feel hard to sit here and talk about, you know, Wholehearted Business, which is my 6-month group program. You should come and join it because it's amazing. Because it helps people get clients, it helps people get all of their marketing stuff sorted, it helps people get out of their heads, taking action, stops them, you know, getting overwhelmed, like all of that kind of thing. And I'm laughing right now because you couldn't write this. But as I've been recording this episode of the show, I've literally had someone knock on my door and he's been like, can I cut? I've got like a big cherry tree at the front of my house. And he was like, do you want this cutting back? And I was like, look, it's after Christmas, you know, things are a bit tight. And he's like, well, can I give you a really good quote for it? Is it all right if I give you a quote? Or can I tell you how much it would be? And then he said, and I was like, actually, that's not too bad. That's probably quite a good amount because I know I've been quoted a lot more in the past. And he's just busy cutting back my cherry tree. So it just goes to show, and it's really interesting again because we get so caught up in our head, all these things that we talk about when it comes to sales and stuff in business and in online business. We talk about being a hot lead. We talk about, you know, people having the problems that we can solve, all that kind of thing. Clearly I had the problem because I had an overgrown ass tree outside my house, but I was not a hot lead. I hadn't indicated that I wanted it done, and he didn't do any hard selling or anything. You know, he wasn't awful. He wasn't, you know, I feel like I could have said no if I wanted to. So it's just really interesting how these situations show up. And I just think it's so funny that I was literally in the middle of recording this episode of the show and he literally just knocks on my door. So yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think with sales and feeling more confident, hopefully some of those tips give you some things to think about. So it's an interesting thing just to look at, like, okay, what is behind, what's the fear underneath this? Because I think most of us, we don't want to piss people off. We don't want to be icky. We don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. It's all of those kind of things. And again, you know, another tip actually that's just come to my mind around this is look for people who, and I think Andrew and Pete, who I know well from doing Atomicon, they have an article around hand raising content, which I'll link to. And this again is another great thing that you can think about is how can you create content that gets people to metaphorically raise their hands in terms of being interested in what it is that you offer. That's another way to feel more confident around sales, because if someone has actually kind of like put their hands up and said, yeah, actually this is something that I will be interested in, the sales can feel much, much better because again, they've actually like said that they're interested. So we're not going to people who are not interested. And I think that's a really important point when it comes to sales. So I hope that you found that episode of the show really, really helpful. Again, if you want to delve even further into this, if you want to look at creating systems so that you get more of those spontaneous client inquiries, so people are actually raising the hands and saying, yes, I'm interested in working with you without you having to do any kind of uncomfortable selling, then definitely check out my Aligned Client Attraction Marketing Workshop. I will put the link to that below. That workshop will really, really help you see how you can create things and put things together in your business into a system that is going to help you attract more clients and generate more of those spontaneous client inquiries. So I hope that's been helpful, guys. Please leave me a comment on YouTube, give me a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and yeah, pop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at wholeheartedly Laura, and I'd love to hear from you over there. And I will see you next week, guys. Take care. Bye.